Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2020-05, the Umaro Blanket Step-by-Step Lace and Cables, and this is Running a Lifeline. This is one of a series of 5 videos. This is the 5th in the series, and this talks about running a lifeline. This is for the Umaro Blanket pattern by Jared Flood, and it contains lace and cables, so a lot of fun things going on. And it's a good idea whenever you're working lace or any kind of intricate pattern to run a lifeline occasionally, so that if you make a mistake that you can pull back to the lifeline and not have, all your stitches kind of drop and fall off. It's sort of a touchstone to go back to. So what you need to do to run a lifeline is you need to get a yarn in a contrasting color, and you want it to be a lighter weight yarn than what you're using. I don't recommend dental floss because dental floss tends to get sucked into the stitches and it's hard to pick up stitches off of it. So get yourself a piece of yarn and a lighter weight yarn. Don't use heavier weight, it'll stretch your stitches. And break off a piece that is longer than your work and will kind of slop over the edges. So just break off a piece of yarn, and then what you want to do is weave it through a tapestry needle. So just go ahead and one easy way to thread a tapestry needle is go ahead and fold the yarn over the needle and pinch, pull it out, and then that pinched part you put through the eye of the needle, and it very nicely threads it. So if you're working your piece on circular needles, which I highly recommend, you can very easily weave the lifeline into the stitches that are on the needle, and you want to move your stitches down to the cord part because this leaves you a lot of room to be able to get your needle into the stitches. So starting from the right, you just enter the stitches as if to purl on the needle. You can do a few stitches and pull your yarn through and leave yourself a nice long tail, because sometimes in the course of things the yarn shifts a little bit and you want to make sure there's room. Make sure you pick up all the stitches on the needle, because if you miss any and you pull your yarn back at some point, you could lose a stitch. So just keep pulling that yarn through every few stitches. One very important thing to remember is if you get to a marker, do not weave the thread through the marker, because what that does is that will keep your marker in that one place and it won't travel up with the rest of your knitting that's coming along. So you want to go around the marker, not through it. So I went in front of that marker and just pull this through. So what'll happen is I get all these stitches on the needle and I get to the next marker and I go around the marker. If you do accidentally go through a marker, what you're going to have to do at some point is actually cut your lifeline. So that kind of defeats the purpose, but that's how you'll deal with it. So you pull it all the way through and then you just take the yarn out of the needle. If you want to, you can kind of pull a little more out on one side so there's about the same drooping over the edges, and there you go. So what'll happen is you'll continue to knit and you'll have the lifeline in here. If you make a mistake like 3 or 4 rows later, you can pull out all of your knitting and it'll stay on the lifeline. Then you can go pick your stitches up off this piece of yarn and start again and build again. So you want to put a lifeline in as often as you think you need it. So, and also you want to put a lifeline in when you're pretty sure that everything's okay up to that point. So if you're new to a pattern and you aren't very confident yet, you could put it in every 4 rows. You could put it in every 10 rows. But what you have to think about is, if I make a mistake, how much am I willing to lose? So let's say you decided you're going to put in a lifeline every 20 rows. And let's say you made a mistake on row 19 and you feel like, or you get up to row 19 and you realize you made a mistake on row 2. you're going to have to go back and pull out 19 rows of knitting to get back to your lifeline. If you put it in every 4 rows and you're confident every 4 rows that you didn't make a mistake, then if you make a mistake upcoming, like 3 rows away from the lifeline, you only have to pull out 3 rows. So however many rows you're willing to sacrifice is how often you should put a lifeline in. And that's how you do it. And thank you for viewing this series of 5 videos. And I will be back later in the year with more. Thank you. Bye-bye.